Hi, I'm Oliver Patrice Vader and this is a behind the scenes video for my recent Shoe Factory release. I'm gonna tell you how I've made the sounds, my process of writing and recording, a little bit about the history of how I ended up here on this island and in this shoe factory. So, in the recent years, I've been living a bit of a nomad kind of life. I've started having my first studio in the living room in a small London flat. I then moved to the north of Spain where I had my first bedroom studio, and from there I went to Amsterdam onto the canals where I had a really lovely setup, and then I went into the noisy heart of Madrid where I could barely record. It was so kind of loud and that city really never sleeps. And then we've moved into this cottage place with this wonderful pool house where I've created the pool project. And on the way to LA, the pandemic kind of changed our plans and made it impossible for myself and my family to get a visa. So we looked for alternatives and we looked for a place where there's an international community for our kids to thrive. And so we found this mountain village here. It's called Alaró and it's got about 5,000 people. And we were a bit in a rush to find a new place because we had to leave this cottage in the outskirts of Madrid. So this was actually the only place we came and visited. And the only thing that was important to us is that I could work away from the family home, so I could close the door and record my stuff and make my music and do the videos, etc. And so when we arrived here, the agent told us, yeah, it was an old shoe factory, etc. And so I didn't really think further until we really moved in, and I was like, wow, it does sound amazing in here. And look at the galleries up there is where it's kind of a New York style loft where you sleep there out in the open, and then that's where I placed the C414s. And I knew already then I was going to record something in there. I started writing on a new album in here in the studio with my electronic setup here with my Wurlitzer, my Juno going into the chorus echo, Novation, bass station, etc. My effects is all hooked up with a looper so I can play live. And then I was looking for a new upright piano because I sold the one from Madrid, which was a Petrov. It's on the Pool Project album as well as sample library. And while I was looking for this upright piano, I saw this ad online of this grand piano, very pixelated pictures, and I was like, wow, that could be a thing, putting a grand piano into this shoe factory, into my living room. If not now, where else would I have such a big space to put it? And so I went to view it, and it was this eccentric piano technician and tuner that crammed this big piano into a tiny, tiny house, and he was selling it. And so I bought it, and it was a little bit crooked. It's more than 100 years old. Apparently it's got a Blüthner mechanics, but it was restored many times. And it sounded a little bit metally and not very even. So I had to take out the mechanics and really put a different amount of felt onto each hammer to make it sound even. I then treated the piano further with a new piano technician, made the pedal sound and the noise of the pedal as smooth as possible. And so I really started enjoying a good sounding piano, and I knew, okay, this is going to be great. If not for the album, then definitely for the sample library. So actually the upright piano features on the album and not on the sample library, but the grand piano features on the sample library. It was not until a guy came to fix our roof, because it used to rain into our house here, and he told me all about the place we're living in. He said he knows the grandfather of the owner of this place, and he said that shoe factories was really a big thing in this village up until like 50, 60 years ago, where there were over 60 of those factories. And so he sent me to one of the factories just outside the village, where I went equipped with a camera and some microphones, and I took some first samples and shots.
Good morning!
Good morning!
How are you, senor?
Very good, how are you?
Very good, always in Tony Mora, thank you. Welcome to Tony Mora.
Thank you so much.
We're making boots for 100 years. Here in Mallorca, 103 actually. In Mallorca, done by hand. So our boots are
I then did
done
some further research and got into another shoe factory where I went with my Coles C414s and really carefully recorded these sounds at the shoe factory. I then came back, treated them a little bit and incorporated them into my existing ideas that I've had here with the piano and the electronics. I thought of another element to record in the shoe factory, and shoes, it kind of took me to brass, because brass for me is kind of the grounding element of the orchestra, and it was interesting after woodwinds and vocals in the last album and strings in the first album to now work with brass. And this track, The Mistral Noir by Daniel Herskedal, I'm not sure I pronounced his name correctly, apologies if not. I was really in love with this track, and I still am, and it was a huge inspiration. So I really wanted a horn or even a tuba or a bass trombone, and to record really slow notes in this beautifully reverberant space of my living room. I then met Florencio, who was actually the guy who used to live here, and he's a sax player, so he had his studio exactly in here as well. And he was interested in what I was doing, and so I invited him over. I set everything up in the living room, and I just played him through the cans my ideas, these loops that I had, and just kind of my electronic ideas and sketches, really. And he just started to play, and it just flew really nicely, and we workshop ideas, and I was like, hey, play this again, and I stopped him. I was like, can you play this like this, etc. And to be honest, many times it was just the first take that I would use on the recordings. He then helped me organizing the other brass players, a horn and tenor trombone, and that completed the sound palette of the Shoe Factory with its recordings for the album, as well as sampling sessions for the sample library. So let's dive into the session. I'm going to show you how I've processed some of these raw recordings from the Shoe Factory as well as from the brass sessions. So here are some examples of the recordings I did. So really simple ambient stuff here that I've then used to program and create instruments. Really cool stuff. I obviously had to denoise it because all the machines running in the background, it would just build up. But it was quite easy to denoise the whole thing because it kind of stayed really steady. All of these things are super interesting, and I provided just the basis of all these hits. So this one, for example, if we go into the library here, so you can really hear where it comes from. Many of them I kind of used raw. I just put a bit of reverb, a bit of EQ, obviously denoising them, and yeah, it was just really inspiring, these hits, and they sounded kind of otherworldly. Some more punching machines here. Some sewing machines. Big machine here. And even these little clicky bits here and there, I use them to weave into the library. Then here's some sandpapering-ish kind of sound. And then what I did is I tried to figure out a pitch, and I show you this here just with the raw sounds here. I use EXS to create some really basic instruments to then send through new effects. A swell built in. kind of a little bit ugly by itself. But then again, so I'm sending this at the moment here through the microcosm, and then I would, send it through the timeline here and the big sky and resample it, and just play around a little bit with the settings here. So and many times what I would do is I would layer it, let's say, for example, with the brass swells. So here actually I have another prototype of the brass recordings. I'm just going to play this to you. So this is me literally just chopping up the samples and loading it into EXS. Obviously I would immediately here create a bit more of a swell here and a bit more of a release, so it sounds a little softer. I would put a ton of reverb, but I just want to show you where it really comes from and what kind of work went into the processing there. Oh, that's a horrible chord. And then, for example, together with the Atmos swell here, or with the Atmos sound, I'm calling it swell, but let's also make this a bit of a swell. And then let's turn some effects up here. Let's try just some mosaic settings here. And even this reverb tail you're hearing now, I'm adding quite a lot of repeats and space here from the microcosm. That reverb tail itself, if something like that would happen, I would take it, assign it to a key, to its pitch, and then reuse it as an instrument and resend it to things. So in the end, it's quite a lot of reusing the sounds and creating new instruments out of these instruments, so to speak. So the similar thing I did here with the grand piano. So here you hear the prototype of the piano. And so a lot of the factory shorts are made like that. So again, turn the effects up here a little bit. And then sometimes just, be surprised what's happening and be pleasantly surprised, or sometimes not so pleasantly, and then you just make a choice what you like. Ooh, that's quite nice. Ooh, that's beautiful. That's quite nice. Wow. Okay, so see, I love this pedal for this, and it just gives you some surprises here and there. I'm just going to play you some of the shorts, and again you can hear that the piano is behind it. Like, for example, this soft spot sound here. And as well with the swells here, you can hear exactly what I've just played you, hear the atmos and the brass. Even pitched about, it would make a little bit of a different sound, like in the highs, you know, it wouldn't sound like a natural brass, but it gives me a new texture to play with. Wow, just really, really inspiring to my ear. Just gonna play you a couple of machine loops again so you can hear how I contextualize them. Really epic sounding, and again, the loops as well, I've sent them through the microcosm, and be surprised sometimes what comes out of the other end. And the same thing here with the sax swells, actually. So we have, I should turn the return on, raw prototype here. Oh, still got this turned on here, but it sounds rather lovely. Okay. Wow. Really, really nice and interesting stuff here. And you know, you can see here my sampling session. So I would do exactly that. I would send the signal through the microcosm with the instrument and add play, and you can hear some of these takes here. And again, here you can see that I've got a return here from the microcosm, and then I would have sent it into another channel there, or into another chain of effects. Both together. And further down here as well, exactly the same procedure, just jamming a little bit, playing with them, see whether it's a useful sound. And if it is, I would send, I would send it through in octaves. Sometimes if there is a bit of evolving stuff going on, I would send it in maybe tritones or fifths or something like that to have a bit more variation. So yeah, I think that's it from the sampling side. Again, here you can see the MIDI information. Sometimes they're really long sounds, so I would just set it off and let it run for about an hour. And for those of you who are interested, so this is how I've incorporated these sounds, let's say, into one of my tracks here, the factory song. What I was explaining is that I had these rhythms here, and this just about probably this, the electronics, and then adding the rhythms from the Shoe Factory. So if we just listen to the, this. Shaker performance there by Juan Espiga, who always provides some lovely percussion here. And I would literally play this through the cans to Florencio, and he would go and improvise some lovely bits. So it would just sound like this on the close mic here. And then the room mics up in the gallery. Just provides such a lovely context of this whole instrument and of the sounds. And then, because I was going to use a tenor sax, and sometimes I was missing a little bit that kind of warmth and bottom ends that the tenor sax provides. So what I thought I'd do is I'd pitch the sax line down and I pan those two parts opposite, and it created this really cool and lovely effect. And then here, the grand piano through the microcosm, through effects. And here is some Atmos warp, that's the Shoe Factory ambience. They actually also play a big part in the intro of the song. Okay, cool. I think this gives you a good overview of how I've created the Shoe Factory album and sample library. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you for watching and listening. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comment section and I'll get back to you. Take care and see you next time. Bye bye.